What can be said about our mothers that hasn't been said? Well, a lot really. There is no, and shouldn't be, any limit to the adoration and examination of nature's most important, if not perfect, creature, a mother. The word mother takes on many forms and many meanings throughout the ages and the arts, and for good reason. Sometimes there is no better descriptor for something than the word mother. Necessity is the mother of invention, Mother Earth, the mother of all blank, a face only a mother could love. You get the idea. Climb aboard the mother ship as the Buzzards sit down and hear some tales with some real mothers today on this episode of $5 Buzz.
Step inside, lock the door behind you. You're stepping in on another episode of $5 Buzz. Roger Mayer, as always, with us tonight in Los Angeles, California. How are you tonight, Roger?
Yeah, man, it's great. Just came back from a wake the other day before last, but we've had a whole year to sit on it, and it was a blast. We had a lot of fun. Got really drunk, took too much Xanax, and then woke up a day and a half later.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better and you're feeling more awake. This is going to be the companion episode to the father episode, what to expect when you're expecting. Pete Liska is out on assignment. He's being a dad. Baby Sienna was born just a couple of days ago, but we're lucky enough to have guest host tonight, Maryann Snow, who is Pete's sister, up in the Boston area. Marianne, how are you? Where exactly are you in Massachusetts right now?
Hello, I'm great. I live right outside of Boston in Watertown. It's about 6 miles from downtown Boston. Yep. Happy to be here. Happy to be filling in for Pete. I'm a brand new aunt to little baby Sienna. So we're all thrilled in our family, and giving him a night off. Although you don't really get a night off with newborns.
So yeah, that's true. And Marianne, just so the people at home know that you are a mom of 3, right? Did your third child come fairly recently? Is that right?
Yep. I have 3 boys. I have Peyton, who's 6, Sawyer, who's 4, and then Walker, who's 3 months.
Wow, 3 months. That's very recent. So
yeah.
You have some pretty poignant comments for Pete that you guys are kind of in this together.
But we're in it. Yeah. I mean, I'm past the first sort of 6 weeks of absolute wildness with no sleep, but I wish them luck. They're going through it right now, but they seem like they're doing great.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I just want to let the listeners know that I met you a long time ago. I think 1999, Pete and I were traversing the country, and were you playing volleyball at
college? Yeah. Yeah. I played volleyball at Robert Morris College. It's now Robert Morris University, I think. But yeah, I remember that road trip. You guys were doing a road trip across the country, and you stopped by Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that was very early in Pittsburgh. So yeah, I have a lot of good memories of that. And look how far we've come. But I wanted to introduce, we have 2 guests with us who are also moms and have pretty unique and diverse mom experience. First guest number 1 is, her name is Laurie Miller. And she's my cousin, and we've known each other for 40 something years, but she has some pretty unique mom experience because she's a mom of 5. She has a daughter who I think, Laurie, is she in 10th grade now?
Yeah, 10th grade now. Mm-hmm.
She's in the 10th grade.
15.
Wow. Followed by, I remember hanging out. I remember what you and I were doing when we were 15. Now you have a 15.
Oh, I know. That's what makes me worry.
Yeah. Well, I
don't think to know anything.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to be quite like that. I know Gail, who I'll introduce in a second. We talk about this all the time. But Laurie, you're out there in Nassau County, Long Island, with a girl followed by 4 boys. How do you get out of the house with 5? Well, when you had 5 little kids, I know they're older now. Maybe you could just take us through the ages and what are the challenges for having 5 kids?
So she's my first one is a girl, and then the 4 boys. So she's 15, and then my next one is 13, and then we have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and then the baby, who I still call the baby, 6-year-old. So it's definitely crazy. I mean, it goes through like different stages of craziness. It's like different, it's new craziness now. But I think for me, just always when I was trying to get them out of the door, or even like today, because the boys are, they're crazy. They're all over the place. It's like a big thing for me is schedule, just like keeping them on schedule. If I don't keep them on a schedule, then everything's just like, it goes awry, and I can't think straight to begin with. So it just gets a little bit more intense, like people will be like, I can't believe like the 2 little ones are in bed by like 6:37 at night, but I have to do that, because now with the older ones, with the running around and the sports and the school, and it's always something going on. So a big thing for me always from little to still now is still schedule.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to you and we'll talk about that. I just wanted to introduce guest number 2, who is Gail Munsch, who I've known for quite a long time. We met, Christ, maybe it was like 1997 when you were down.
Yeah, it was 97.
Yeah, 1997.
In the sorority house.
Yeah, you were a couple of, 2 other guests on the show, Dan Cohen and John Stewart. We drove down to College Park after a couple of days in Towson, Maryland. And, it's funny enough that we wound up living in the same town where you still live, Stamford, Connecticut. And you were a mom, I think, when we moved to Stamford.
Yes.
So you're a mom of twin boys. So that's a unique experience in itself. And your boys are in their first year of high school, right? There's some interesting dynamics going on, I think you were telling us about, right?
Yes, it's horrifying. So I have identical twin boys. So we just quit after that because it was so horrifying that happened to us. And we just figured we'd end up with more twins somehow, and they'd all be boys, and then I'd have to leave. So it's funny you talk about schedule, and I guess we'll get back to that. Schedule is everything from like the minute they're born, but more on that later. It's easier now because they're both doing the same thing all the time. So we don't have to worry about the schedule. They're pretty similar. They, go to the same activities. They do the same things. They have the same friends. So now I'm kind of living the dream, except with like the horror, like we said, of knowing what we did in high school. So that just lives in the back of my mind all the time.
It's that beginning, though, that's the terrible part. I mean, a friend of mine had triplets. And so I remember being conscripted into that whole routine. Whenever you go over there, okay, you got night shift.
Yeah.
You had a whole, this one went to the bathroom at this time. This one's fed at this time. It was a little insane. So I can only.
Yeah, I mean, and it's for your sanity, and I strongly believe it's better for the kids when they're babies, and it's like everyone knows what to expect all the time.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Predictability.
Yes.
Makes everybody happy.
And Gail, one piece of trivia is that your sons were movie stars in their younger age. Like, can you tell the people about their experience on set and what movie and who they were working with?
Yes. Oh, I'd be happy to. So, of course, once we knew we were having identical twins, we're like, we got to marry Kate and Ashley, these guys. Like, you got to do something with them. So it was coincidental. We had a friend who knew a casting director. They were filming a movie in Stamford. Robert De Niro, Drew Barrymore, Sam Rockwell, Kate Beckinsale. It was called Everybody's Fine.
Okay.
Terrible movie, actually.
Yeah.
My boys, we said, were definitely the best part of it. One of them got to pick Robert De Niro's nose, but it was perfect. I was home on maternity leave. They were like 4 months old. They called us to come down to set. But again, back to the schedule, like I just thought everyone was on my baby's schedule. So they'd, say, oh, could you wake the baby up and bring him to set now? And I was like, well, we like to sleep another hour. So that didn't really fly. So it was a very stressful week, but definitely see the movie and watch the Munch Bros.
Roger.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then that was it. That was the end of the career because again, just too stressful with the schedule, and they make no money. They're considered props. And at one point, I think one of them like wouldn't cry on cue. So they swapped them out for like a fake baby. So yeah, it just wasn't worth it.
I always wondered how that worked.
Fake babies. Yeah. And they hated Drew Barrymore. So we have like a personal thing against Drew Barrymore in my house. She made him cry like all the time.
Yeah, I can relate. You know, I worked for Uncle Bob one time for the Tribeca Film Festival, so we have similar stories to tell about De Niro.
Well, he was our favorite. He was like a grandpa. We have this picture in our house of him with the babies, and everyone just thinks like, "Oh, is that your dad? Like, is that their grandpa?" We're like, "No, it's Robert De Niro." But that's just, was kind of his vibe.
Yeah, but but that was a period when he started making really bad movies.
Yes.
Bought up all of the Lower East Side.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the first of many, many bad movies.
Yeah.
Those were the paycheck movies, I think.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Marianne, would you be able to share a little bit what you know about what the birth was like for baby Sienna, just because Pete's not here to kind of fill us in. I know he's been really busy and we're not trying to bother him too much, but it seems like Vanessa did have to be induced, and the baby didn't really want to come out just yet. Pete was saying it was a pretty long, strenuous labor.
20 hours.
Right? Yeah,
20
20
hours.
Yeah, I think I may have as much information as you guys. I mean, I think that he said 20 hours, which is a real long time. I think it's also when you are anticipating that first week leading up to your due date. I went early with my first one, so it was a surprise, and then I had a C-section with the second two, so that was scheduled. But yeah, I think they were waiting for the due date that came and went, and then it's kind of like, when is this gonna happen? So yeah, she was induced, and I from what I understand, a long labor, and Pete cried pretty hard. It was really, really emotional, which makes total sense if you know Pete. He's got a big heart, and they seem like they're just totally in that like beautiful stage of like complete love, and no sleep. Like, eyes wide open, humming a little bit, adrenaline sort of pumping, trying to figure out oh my gosh, this kid wakes up every 2 hours, got to feed it, got to change it. And I think they're getting settled into home with her. She is a little replica of Vanessa. She's so cute. And it's just awesome. When you have kids, you can't wait for the people around you, especially your siblings, to have kids. So I feel like for me, it's just, and for my family, we're just so thrilled for them.
Now,
and a girl, she's the first girl on the Liska side. So gotta mix up with all these boys.
Yeah, there you go. I'm an only child, so that makes it easy for me. I don't have to worry about it.
Now, as a veteran of, you have 3 children, but you're still kind of in the newborn phase. What type of advice do you give to parents like Pete and Vanessa, who this is their first time? What's your go-to advice for parents?
Yeah, a lot of advice, a lot of unsolicited advice, I guess, that happens from people when you first start having kids. I mean, I usually just tell people that you are the exact parents for your kid. There is, don't listen to what works for one kid isn't going to work for somebody else. And, you just need to trust that you are doing the right thing for your kid. I certainly had a hard time with that in the beginning with my first one. Pacifier, no pacifier. Breastfeed now, wait, or pump now or wait to pump. Like, can't take a bottle, can't take. It's like you can actually make yourself a little crazy if you listen to all the advice out there. You really sort of have to take it with a grain of salt, and do what you think is right. I think that is probably true for the first couple of years, and I'm sure Laurie and Gail can agree. Sleep, co-sleep, don't co-sleep. Like there's so many parenting. People think that they're experts, and they may be experts on their child, but they're not necessarily experts on your child. So I think that Pete and Vanessa are really equipped to be excellent parents. It's certainly not going to be easy. You got to have people around you that you can uses sounding boards and invent to, but there is no magical moment where everything is just like quiet and happy and peaceful. It's chaos. It's a lot of sleepless chaos all the time. And so you just have to roll with it and be in the present moment with these kids and trust that you have what it takes to be exactly who this kid needs.
I don't think cavemen had a book to actually teach them how to be parents.
There you go. That's right. They didn't.
And we're still here. Look, Laurie, I told Pete that my number one advice to everyone was anytime you leave the house, just buy wipes. Like no matter where you are, I would just go and I would stop by CVS or, wherever it was and grab like a 3-pack of wipes. Where you've seen a lot, and a lot of things have probably changed since Kaylee was born. But what do you do? I'm sure you must get asked quite often by parents for some type of advice. I mean, I know it's a really broad question, but what would you say to someone that just is going through it for the first time?
Yeah, I think definitely, and I hate to be like repetitive, but I think the schedule is a big thing. Some might think that I'm like mean or crazy, but I learned that the schedule was so important that newborns don't know what they want to do. They'll just eat and sleep and poop and they'll just do that until you kind of like straighten them out a little bit. So I was really big on teaching them day and night. So I was like after the first 3 weeks, I just really would wake them up during the day. If I knew it was that time for them to feed, I would wait, the old school, like you never wake a sleeping baby, but then I was never going to have any kind of normal sleep myself. So during the day, I would, if I had to undress the baby or do the damp, wet washcloth on the baby, wake the baby up, I was big on that because that was the way I kind of got them into their sleep cycle. I think the only book that I really ever read was something like Healthy Sleep Habits for Happy Parents or something like that. And it just kind of briefly spoke about their sleep cycle. And I think I kind of referred to that a little bit with Kaylee, my first one. And after that, I was just kind of like, all right, I got this. They are going to be up during the day. I am going to get that bottle or breast or whatever I was doing at the time in the mouth every 3 hours. And that was huge for me. But yeah, you definitely also go through, you learn all the things you're bringing with you. Like, I think, I know the bibs have changed a lot. I sound so old and I really don't feel like it was that long ago, but it became a trick. Like you were always changing their outfits from spitting up, or like the neck was always getting wet. So I liked the best, like the terry cloth, bibs. And I would just put them like in their outfits and then put one on top as well, because like if I doubled them up, I just felt like, okay, I'm saving myself from changing one outfit. Like that was always my thing. Their necks are always wet. But like you said, just, as time goes on, you learn like, let me keep extra diapers here. Let me keep extra wipes here. And in the beginning, it's just about kind of just trying to find your peace of mind just because you're on such little sleep, but when you look back at it and people tell you that it goes fast, it really does go so fast. And it's funny that we're talking about like the newborn stage because, I was walking the other day and I was like, I would do anything in the world to go back to that like exhaustion, because it just gets crazier as they get bigger. It's like a totally different kind of exhaustion. And it's just so sweet. It's so sweet in the beginning, so.
Laurie, was there anything that jumps out at you from number 5 that you did differently from number 1?
Yeah, well, I think kind of like going off what you said, like in the beginning, you were so like, oh, the baby should be doing this, or should I be doing that? Like with Kaylee, I was so nervous about like how long was she going to be on a bottle? And the same thing, like the pacifier. And I remember by 9 months old, I was like, this baby needs to be on a sippy cup. She has to be on a sippy cup. And, I did that with her. The rest of them, I was like, they're not going to go to college with a bottle. I let them have the bottle as long as they wanted. It gave me peace to let them, and then, you hear they're like, oh, they can't drink milk because of their teeth. They're going to lose the teeth anyway. The adult ones are on their way. You just suddenly become like, hey, it's okay. They're going to survive. I'm not going to kill them. And like little things like that, the potty training. I remember a lot of people in the beginning with her, by a certain age, they should be potty trained. And I was like, they're going to know. The rest of them, I'm like, they're going to know when it's time. again, they're not going to go to college in a diaper, you know? So I just think as each kid, time went on, I was just more relaxed. And I knew it was going to just kind of take its course, you know? But yeah, the first one, you're always a little bit like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if there's any advice really that I could give a first-time parent, it's just relax, just enjoy it. Enjoy being in your pajamas all day, because it's not going to be like that forever. And, you know, enjoy that type of exhaustion, and just go with what feels right. You know, just my thing is just try to get them on a schedule that you can get rest, you know, just get them up during the day, you know, kind of regulate their clock.
So don't put a cigarette in their mouth and a shot of whiskey at age 8 like my dad did.
There you go.
No, you hold off on that. Yeah, I'm gonna build on that too. And I think like the takeaway from what we all say is, yeah, you do what works for you, like for the baby, because it makes everything easier for everybody. So I'm the same way, because I had 2 at once. I had a different experience than like regular first-time parents. Like I didn't care about germs. If you had hands, like take a baby. You know, if there was a bottle on the floor, I don't care whose mouth it was in, stick it in the other kid's mouth. And I also like militant on that schedule. And, you know, my Italian in-laws had a really hard time. Like I told George, we were going to write a book called like, The Baby's Just Not That Into You. Because anytime a baby cried, they were like, oh, I wonder what's the matter with the baby. Oh, I think he's hungry. I think he's tired. No, he doesn't like you. Stop looking at him. We've got the schedule. Don't interfere. And that was it. Like if you came in my house, don't even touch a bottle before like 4 hours or whatever that time was.
Yes.
We needed to count on that. And the same thing people will say, never wake a sleeping baby. Oh, until you have twins. And then you have to wake the other baby. So why wouldn't that be okay for just regular one babies? That baby doesn't know he's a twin. So we did that like at night when we tried to cut out the feedings, we would just like wake everybody up. And for us, like, I think we were so freaked out when we were having twins, the whole pregnancy, because I thought I was going to have this cute experience. Like, I'm going to take a baby to the mall and we're going to like stroll around all day. And how cute is that? And what am I going to do it too? We were so much better off than a lot of our friends. Like, they'd be like, oh, I haven't showered today. I'm like, how haven't you showered? I've showered. I've done this because my babies are sleeping at this time, at that time, you know, and we just knew what to expect. Until, of course, like then 2 weeks later, everything would change and then you'd have to like redo the schedule. So it was a constantly changing what to expect. But once you knew that like you could control that a little bit, that was just the key to everything. Until, you know, it falls apart when somebody tells you like, oh, come bring the baby. We're having brunch at 11. You're like, oh, well, my baby sleeps at 11. They're like, well, that's when the brunch is. And you're like, okay. So like an idiot, you wake up your baby, then you go somewhere. The baby starts crying. I wonder what's the matter with it. I'm sitting in a room by myself with 2 hysterical babies. So again, you do what's good for you.
How frequently were you completely by yourself with 2-on-1? You were like outnumbered.
Yeah. So I will be honest. So for like the first 6 weeks, and somebody else said something about 6 weeks, my husband will tell you he has totally blacked that out. Like it's like he doesn't even remember it. It's like, because it's like the twilight zone, and like you're up at like 4 a.m. and you're like, is anyone else in the universe up right now? And like, what do you do? It gets better after that. But yeah, so I would say the first 6 weeks, like my mother-in-law slept over, my mom slept over, Paul was home. The first 2 weeks we had a baby nurse who I still had to get up and was like totally freaked out that somebody else was in my house. So it wasn't actually helpful. But yeah, it was hard to be alone until those 6 weeks. And then again, they're like more alert. They know the difference between day and night. And then, yeah, you could do it yourself. And you got pretty good about, you know, one was here and you had a bottle here and you had like bottle over here. And you
you get into a rhythm with it.
Yes. Yeah. But before 6 weeks, it's just awful. And that's
that's what I told Pete and Vanessa. I was like, the first 6 weeks,
just terrible.
You just got to know.
Yeah. And don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't think it's going to be magical. It's horrible.
I remember.
And then it gets magical.
I remember I was always making formula. Now, Marianne, are you?
Oh, yeah.
Are you going back to formula? Because I know that you just had your youngest is 3 months. So, Like,
Yeah.
is your
So
philosophy different from like your older kids to like now getting back into it?
yes, my first, I was like a hot mess because I just was trying to do what I thought everyone, like the picture perfect, like motherly thing to do was. I didn't have a lot of babies in my life. My friends with kids didn't live near me. So babies were like brand new. So I had no idea what I was doing. And it really freaked me out until one day I was like, I'm just going to do what I think is right. And then my life started to get a little bit better. But um and with the third now, I came home the minute I got home from the hospital, I started pumping and I gave a bottle to my husband and I was like, I'm going to sleep. You can feed him. And it worked. And like, Walker just took a bottle, no problem. Like it was no problem. And then I was like, you know what? So I pump and then so I'm breastfeeding him pumping, but he also gets formula. Like, if I miss a pump or want to have a glass of wine and I don't feel like, giving him that or it's not good, then he gets a bottle of formula and it's fine. He's totally fine. I would have never done that with the first one. It would have been really hard for me. I was, with the first one, I was forced to stop breastfeeding at 11 weeks because of really bad mastitis, which is an infection in your breast. And I had to shut down breastfeeding and I just cried because I was like, now I have to give him formula and I feel like I'm ruining him. And my mom was like, I never breastfed you.
See, that's
like,
things
you're
that
going to be
like,
fine.
yeah. That was with
There's
my
a mom
first
guilt,
one.
like the mom guilt, it's real with the first one. And it's too bad because like if I don't know, it's like, I feel like I experienced two versions of myself. I'm a completely different mom the third time around and I'm so much happier and the baby's happier and our family's happier. And just because it's going to be okay. But I feel like Pete and Vanessa are also like way like a little like they're good like that, like they're chill. Like they're not like I was like, I don't know, just really intense about it.
That happened with my first one. I had to end up switching over to formula, and I will never forget buying. That was the thing about formula. Like I didn't even know that I was buying formula. My sister was old. I have an older sister. And I remember getting up during the night and like getting the formula out of the refrigerator. And the same thing, I was going through all the emotions. Like, what am I doing? This isn't going the way it's supposed to do. I can't believe I'm giving formula and heating up bottles, like heating them up. And then my sister was like, it's the things you just don't know. She's like, you need to buy the powder, leave the powder in the container on your nightstand overnight with the bottle like already filled with the water. Like I'll never forget. That was like the biggest, like, I was like, oh my God, like that changed my life. So for newborn parents, like if they have to do formula, if they choose to do formula, whatever it is, just me, you don't buy the liquid anymore because you could take the powder with you. You could leave it on your nightstand. You don't have to get out of bed. You're not heating up bottles. Like,
It's actually really convenient. Like I can make a bottle in like 2 seconds. Like it's, and again, like I don't have to heat. I never had to heat anything up. My kids just took bottles right out of the fridge. They were hungry and and that worked, thankfully. I mean, and again, I know not every kid is the same. I recognize that too. I just have like hungry boys who are just happy to be fed no matter what it was.
Oh yeah. I remember after like the first one and then the bottles with the other ones, whether it was milk, whether they're supplementing with no matter what it was. I remember my mom being like, how are you giving that kid a cold bottle? I'm like, they're fine. It's true. As time goes on, you just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, well, no one ever even asked about breastfeeding. Like I remember when I did the doctor's appointments or going to the hospital and they're like, oh, are you going to be breastfeeding? Like, oh, nope, I see twins. Nope, you're not doing that. Now, I do know people that did that, but it wasn't even a thing. And yeah, I wasn't breastfed. And then my husband, like all along the pregnancy, kept telling me, and I don't want to like badmouth him because he was like super hands-on and not even just because we had twins, but he's like, you really should breastfeed. It's better for the baby, blah, blah, blah. And I found out like one of his idiot friends is like, you want her to breastfeed because then you don't have to do anything. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So any thought I had about it, like we're done now and it's formula. But yeah, it just, and that's a personal choice for me. I'm like, I need it all. Like I needed to get back to normal. Like I can't add anything else into that mix. And that worked for me. Again, for me, it was like that control of like, I need to know exactly how much you ate. So I know that you're eating, and then you're going to sleep. And like, then I can have some sanity. But
that is so nice about formula and even
yeah,
bottle feeding. You just
yeah,
know how much they eat.
yeah, yeah. For some people, it's really great. It's really easy, and that's terrific. But yeah, definitely, I think women are made to feel like that's the best thing. And maybe it is, I don't know, but it's probably not for your sanity when then it's all on you. And you're just like, again, unless it works.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, like, with what happened with my daughter, and I was not shy for formula with my kids. And, they're all thriving. They're all doing good. They're all doing good in school. Thank God. Everybody is, again,
Yeah.
I'm a product of formula.
Yeah.
And I think I'm doing okay. So to each his own,
I was
Rob-
born back when they were still smoking cigarettes in the room. Well, there's
Yes.
that. 1968.
That was how it was back then, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure
smoking
was.
cigarettes, drinking wine, like that's
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
normal.
Absolutely.
Mad Men era.
Hey, Roger, I think we're close to half an hour. Maybe we could just
Sure.
pause now and maybe we can talk a little bit about the differences between like what you're talking about and then what it's like now. And then we could talk about maybe what it's like having older kids, like, the high school going into the modern stuff versus.
Well, and I have a very specific question after listening to what I just listened to for the last half hour. So
All
we
right.
can
So
lead off with that.
Yeah, we'll lead off with that.
Hey, we have a quick favor to ask. We want to get the word out, and the way to help is for you to subscribe to us on either Apple or Spotify. And it would be really huge if you give us a rating and a review. Much love. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of $5 Buzz on this special episode talking about motherhood and children. And we have our guest host, Maryann, and our two guests, Laurie and Gail. And we've just been talking about babies and breastfeeding versus formula and a bunch of other little things. And, it's funny how I've just been listening to the last half hour. And really the first question, and I know there's going to be an answer, a good one at the end of this question, but from the outside looking in, say, for instance, I was an alien coming from another planet and had a totally different reproductive system. How is any of that shit fun? What is rewarding about it? I'm asking, literally.
No, that's a good question. I mean, it's funny. And I think about it like this, and I think it's true even to this day. There are certain days that you're like, oh my God, how lucky am I? What did I do to deserve this? It's so magical. And, that's how you feel. It's what it is. It could be over the simplest thing. And then of course there's other days when you're like, what did I do to deserve this? This is so terrible. I'm cursed. You can't speak for everybody. Some people have challenges, for sure. And, but in my situation, no, it's rewarding all the time. I'd rather hang out with my kids than do anything. Now, I can't say that when they were 2 years old. I like them now. They're fresh and they're
to not teach his kid no.
Oh God. Yeah. No is like, I don't know. I feel like the way they are at 2 and like 3 years old, they come back to that in like 7th grade. So you kind of get back into that like rebellious, like, I don't like you phase. But I think overall, if you've done it right, you enjoy more than you don't, and you just deal with the challenges as they come.
Laurie, you got 5 reasons.
Yeah, I think, there are days, yes. Okay, well, let's back it up with this way. I had fun growing up. I had all the things that I'm worried about my kids doing now. I've traveled, I've done a lot of things. So it's definitely obviously a decision, if you want to have kids. And I think for me, it's just the feeling proud of them as they grow, feeling proud of them just over the littlest things that they're learning how to do, or feeling like I taught them that. It's just being a teacher, I think, in a way. It's like a lot of emotions. And like you said, like, it's different from when they're little as to when they're getting bigger. But I think for me, I knew I always wanted to have kids. I had 5 Cabbage Patch Kids when I was little.
Oh,
And I started babysitting when I was, I want to say like 13. So I don't know. I just always knew it was something that I wanted. Yes, it is definitely not for everybody, but it was something that I knew I'd wanted. Luckily, the person I married felt the same way, and he wanted a big family. I actually, at one point, and this could be because you get on that train of like, you're just like, you do at some point become a machine. Like, I'm taking care, I'm doing, and I was working, but I had really wanted a 6th baby. And it was really hard for me. It was really, really hard for me to say, I am never again going to create a life. I'm never going to create another person with my husband and see what their personality is like. What are they going to look like? How are they going to be? And he was actually the one that was like, when will there be time? Like, when is it time for us again? You know what I mean? So because you do at some point want to be able to like breathe again. But going back to what you're asking, I think it's just I can't put into words really the emotion that goes along with it. Having them come to you when they need help, even if now that they're getting older, just like emotional help, like they can be so mad at you 1 second and want nothing to do with you. But if something blows up in their world, they're like right there looking to you like that, like a true best friend, like how you could kind of like push other people off in your life, but like your children don't, if that makes any sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of veering away from your question, I think, a little bit, but
but it is, it's hard to explain.
As a whole. Wait, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like, there are definitely days where I'm like, I can't think, I can't get a thought straight through my head. But now that I've had them, I cannot picture my life without them, if that makes any sense. Yes, I probably could have been there are people that don't have children and they're happy and they're thriving and they're living life and they're doing everything. But now that I have them, they are just, they're my life,
I think you just
I
gave a
think
very wonderful, succinct answer. I mean, that was
I
great.
think it's interesting. Like, your life is not your own the minute you have kids. And that's a real
Right.
adjustment, right? And like, we're
Yeah.
human. We still need breaks. We all have those moments where we just need a break from our kids. And it's funny. They're funny little creatures, because the minute you get a break from them, you miss them terribly.
Yeah.
It's like the minute you get, like, okay, I'm going out to dinner. And then you're like, what are the kids doing?
Yeah.
So it's a really funny thing, these humans that you create, and they're such amazing little creatures, and it's really incredible to watch them grow. That doesn't mean that they don't drive you absolutely nuts. And it's really hard.
Yeah, it's
at
definitely not like the
times.
Brady Bunch. Like, believe me, there are hard times, there's tears, there's arguing, there's definitely, I mean, I would never pretend that there isn't, but it's kind of when you look at like that whole sum at the end of the day, I don't know, like, yeah, you feel like, okay, I need a break sometimes. Like, or I'll tell my husband, like, see ya, I need a break for a few minutes. Like, I just need to collect a thought. But I couldn't picture life without them.
Do you guys have any secret ways of taking breaks? Like, so for example, like I tend to take like a 3-hour shower. Like, I'm going to take a shower, and my husband calls it the Great Escape. But just wondering if there's any ways that you guys.
I think everyone
take a break.
probably has to find that way. I wanted to go back to Roger's question for 1 second, because it just reminded me, it was this past summer, and I think it was one of my kids actually said, like, why do you do this? Like, how is this fun for you? And what they were talking about is they play like competitive lacrosse. It was like Father's Day weekend. We had to drive to Jersey in traffic on Saturday, sit in the heat for like 4.5 hours watching them play lacrosse, and they don't talk to you there. Like, they hang out with their friends. So you just sit there like quietly. You come home, we had to go back the next day, and they're like, how is this fun for you? And you know what? That's fun for us. They love it. They had a great time. Like, your emotions are tied in with theirs. So like if they love something, like you will drive to the ends of the earth and do nothing else because you love it because they love it. Like that's, I think, pretty much why you do it. And you don't realize that at the time. But, and, you know, listen, I'm sure there's not all parents that feel that way. And, you know, that's fair too, but that's
No, I
what
think
it is.
I think that's a very good point. And I think that's a great way to put it. I agree. Like, yeah, your emotions are tied into their emotions. I agree with that. Just like football, like one of my guys wanted to start football and I was like, oh my God, like you're in all these other sports. What are you doing? And you're going to get hurt. And, you know, he is so in love with it that when we're sitting there on the weekend, you know, and in this quote unquote fall, but we're still all sweating and you're burning in the sun. And I love it. You know, like I am just like, well, like, yeah, like, let's go, you know? So yeah.
Laurie, you just reminded me of something really funny when you were just saying that sometimes you feel like a machine. And I just was thinking about we were up in Lake George. So if people don't know, it's like this big lake up in the Adirondacks Mountains. And we were hanging out on the beach. And I think Kaylee and her cousin Caitlin went out on this boat, like nothing crazy. They just went on like a kayak and it was so windy. And they started blowing down the lake. Like the wind was super strong. And Jeff just like, I don't even know if he knew how to, well, he must have known how to row a rowboat. The guy just jumps in a rowboat and just start like, the guy's like half a mile in the water, just like cranking down and just going to get him. And like, they were totally fine. But it was just, I just saw him jump in the boat. And I don't know, maybe one of the boys went with him. Like they just jumped in the boat and do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And people need to realize Lake George is not like a man-made lake. It's 32 miles long. I mean, you'll get whitecaps, you know, it's a big lake. And you just kind of go into that mode. Yeah, I do remember that. I remember that. And you just, those are the crazy times that you're like, for God's sakes, and you want to choke them, but you just fall into, that like robotic machine mode. Like, this is what I got to do now, you know?
Yeah, I feel like Jeff is just always on. So he never gets out of that mode probably. But we were talking about, I think we were thinking a little bit about like what, you know, Laurie and Gail have kids that are in high school now. And Gail, I remember, and Laurie, I know we talk about this too. It's like, oh, what's it going to be like when they go to high school? And Gail, I was at your house a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was like, might have been like one of the first days of school for your sons, and you're like, oh well, there's some kids hanging out in the backyard, and you're like, look at them, you know, they're all having fun, and I think they were drinking. I just remember when I was in ninth grade, and it's funny, we just did an episode about 1991, and I was in ninth grade in 1991, and what I remember is there was no parents anywhere. Like no one saw parents. People were like drinking 40s, people were smoking blunts. Like it was like, I think I said it in the episode. I'm like, we left middle school and then we were in high school and like, it was on right away. It, like all the things that you kind of maybe heard about and then it was there. Like, it was like full throttle getting thrown into the ocean. And it doesn't seem like that was the case. And Laurie, it, you know, from what I hear you talk about is, I don't know. I think that time is like over. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive and
no, I mean, I always say this, Gen X.
Yeah.
I mean, Gen X parents are the helicopter parents. Our parents were the latchkey parents. It's a different time, man. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with absolutely no parental vision or supervision of any kind since I was 13 at all. Look how I turned out. So, but it's a way different because as a film producer, I get all of your children when they are around 22, 23, 24, 25, like a drill instructor or a professor. And I get this, there's a marked change from when I've been making movies 10, 15 years ago from the way that I make films now. Children are very different. They are very much more open-minded than they've ever been, but they're also more afraid of work. So there's I'm just saying, generally speaking. So I know that those are some marked differences, but that's, you know, I'm not a parent and I've never been a parent.
I think one of the differences too is how do you guys handle cell phones?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because we didn't have the, you know, like that's probably, you know, your kids might be at the ages where they've got phones and then therefore Probably
social
social
media.
media.
Yeah.
Well,
How do you guys manage that?
I think like going back a little bit to like what Georgie was saying, I think as far as like everything we were thrown into, like everybody was drinking 40s and everybody was, it's still going on. I mean, pot smoking, the drinking, the everything, like once you come into high school, I see it, you know, I'll go past certain places and I smell it. I mean, I think kids are still having a good time. You know what I mean? I think maybe today,
It's more sophisticated today, though. I mean, they have gummies.
yeah.
and
Well, you know what it
edibles,
is? I think there's
and
so
it's
many.
all legal.
Yeah. And and I think we don't think so because we see kids today now so much more in sports and travel sports, and you know, everybody's like pushing to go to college on a scholarship of sports. And I think, I don't know, I think like the like this, like that whole
Everything's
dynamic is
more
different
important than it was in our day, right? Like, I mean, did you think about when you were a freshman, like, oh my God, got to get into a good school? Like,
Right.
it wasn't that push. You didn't know
Right.
what was at stake. I
See,
think
but
the
I
kids
grew up-
today know that.
I graduated in '86, and I would say that I was surrounded by those kids in Southern California, here where I grew up. That was the case, though. So I guess it might be regional too about some of these things.
Yeah, just the way lacrosse like wasn't always in our
Yeah.
area. And
There
you
ain't
know
no
what? That's
lacrosse
a
in
really
Los
good
Angeles.
point. Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, they can't get away with anything. I mean, our parents, it's not that they didn't, you know, want to be on top of us, but you left the house and there was no way to track you. So they didn't think about it.
That
A lot
too,
of
yeah.
times, I wish I didn't know, because then, you know, I don't have like the whole tracking on the phone, but I could see where their phone is. So like if they were supposed to be home, and we don't like really have like a curfew because they're not really doing anything bad. Like if you're downtown and you're seeing a movie and you're going to Buffalo Wild Wings, like someone's driving you home, like a parent, I don't care what time you get home, as long as I don't have to pick you up at night because I'm having cocktails. But I would the phone and then I'm like, why are they in that park? That's not where the movie is. You know, I don't want to do that. It would be better if it wasn't, but I think that's why I think they're not into the things that we were all into as quickly and like as hard as we were. I think they just can't be.
Yeah, and maybe the interest in that kind of stuff just isn't quite the same as it was back then. I don't know, but I think the technology definitely plays a huge part, because you know, one thing like we never thought about was like I never once thought like anyone's parents was coming, anyone's like that just
You
didn't
didn't know
even occur.
anybody's parents.
We were like, we're adults now, or we thought we were adults, and there was no one ever thought about their mom coming, or like it just didn't happen. I don't know, but I you know, I'm not saying that was like the right way to do things, but yeah, I guess maybe kids now kind of realize that things are permanent. There's no, hey, Mr. Internet, I made a mistake, we gotta take that post off the internet, or like that picture. We can't do that kind of stuff anymore. Maybe there's a little more apprehension, you know, maybe they're more aware of doing things that we probably just would have done impulsively, maybe.
Yeah.
I have a psychologist friend who treats a lot of young people, and he says it's the number one problem with social media as far as the anxiety with young people.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. They have the snap maps. Like, do you guys know like the Snapchat maps? These kids have Snapchat. I was very, very, very strict with my daughter with the phone. By the time I let her get it, any kinds of apps, anything like that. But then there comes a point in time where you know it's going to happen. But I think it causes them, yes, a lot of anxiety, a lot of left out, a lot of what's going on, a lot of this with the images, self-image with the girls, with the pictures. But like they have the snap maps. So if like 15 girls or 10 boys or whatever it is, are hanging out at one house, you can open Snapchat and you see on the map where all your friends are that you like weren't asked to go. I mean, when we were younger, you were just out, you did what you were doing. It was not like who knew what was going across Instagram. You know, I definitely think the social media is a huge problem. I saw some post probably on Instagram that it went through like all these statements that like a girl was like hypothetically saying to her mom. And the very last one I think was something to the effect of, you know, don't try to like reprimand me about my social media, and this is our life now. Teach me how to work with it, you know, like be
True.
supportive and teach me how to deal with it, so to speak. Like, I think there's a lot of us from our like era that we just want it to like be gone, like get it out of your hands, don't do it, don't,
But
you
it's
know,
not going anywhere. No.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's got to be
Um,
some way to navigate that stuff. I mean, in the future, I know they're trying. It all started off as a plan to have equal communication. Of course, it that derailed over the next 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, you'll laugh at me, you'll think I'm crazy, but I wish there was like literally like a legal law that kids couldn't have any social media, just a phone for emergency. Fine.
Yeah.
We're all running around today. Things are more busy. But no social media till like you're like 17, 18. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I think their heads are getting so screwed up from it to some point or another, you know?
So they're not
Um,
growing out of that. Like kids don't think like like I just heard all this news about Facebook being down yesterday.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like,
Well,
the
Facebook is
the
for old
kids
people.
care
They don't-
about Facebook?
No, no, no.
Like,
No.
really? Do they care?
No, Facebook's
Yeah.
gone. It's Instagram. It's
TikTok.
Snapchat, TikTok, of course.
TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok is the big dog now.
Yeah.
You know, and
TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat.
I think once they're emotionally a little bit more mature, we're like, and again, it's not all kids. Some kids until they're 30 might have FOMO. I think, George, we know some people like that, you know,
Yeah.
that have it even as adults, you know,
Right.
but I think, and like you said, like trying to help them navigate it because it's here to stay. Okay, well, you weren't invited. There was 5 people over there. You don't always want to invite everybody. Like people can do things without you. Like you have to be okay with that. Doesn't mean nobody likes you. It's just, that's what it is, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, like you do have
it's
to
the
live
most
with
narcissistic
world.
social existential crisis that we have.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
It's a weird,
Girl.
it,
Boys don't
it's
care.
a weird, like I don't know, if you're maybe, I don't know, Marianne, your oldest son, how old is he?
He's 6.
All right. So Henley and Brighton, well, Brighton is doing it because Henley does it, but Henley is my oldest daughter. She is 8, and they play this game called Roblox, and and I've talked about it on the show before. I think it's like the evolution of like talking to your friends on the phone. They're all playing a video game, talking to each other at the same time. But I told their friend Nikki, who they talk to like every day, like first thing they do when they wake up is they talk to Nikki, both girls, Henley and Brighton. Said, well, I'm going to take you guys to the movies. You want to see if Nikki wants to come. But they talked to another girl called Amelia, who's always, I'm like, guys, I don't know if, and I didn't want to like leave Amelia out, but I don't think her, like Nikki's mom is like, yes to everything. I'm like, I'm going to pick them up, bring them to the movies. I'll bring them home. And then Amelia's mom, I don't really know that good. So I'm like, I don't want to impose and say, hey, do you want, but I just don't want to leave her out. So I'm like, guys, don't tell Amelia. And then Henley and Brian, like, we're not saying anything. And I think Nikki might have blabbed or whatever. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, it's what you guys are saying about leaving people out. It's like, how the hell are you supposed to accommodate like 15
Yeah,
people?
those are
It's
tricky
just not
dynamics.
realistic on
Yeah.
any level, right?
But that's the
extremely
society
imperative.
we live in, where it was like when the kids were little, like it was like, well, if you're having a birthday party, you have to invite the whole class. Like, why do I have to? I don't want to. Nobody's friends with those kids. Like, why does it have to be like that? But I remember like in the early days of school, that was kind of like the rule. And it just
Yeah.
sets everybody up. It's like everybody gets a trophy, that everybody's the same. Like that's just what we live in right now. And yes, I think it's messing them up. Or guess what?
I
Oh,
gotta
yeah, we
remember like sneaking the invitation. Like if you want to invite your buddy from the other class, you had to like
Yeah.
meet them like at the bus stop and like, here, take this.
Yeah.
Here's the invitation to my fucking Chuck E. Cheese birthday party.
Chuck E. Cheese. Well, it's the same
Yeah.
thing now with like Valentine's Day or anything like that.
Oh,
The
right.
teachers will
Everyone
send
has to
home a
have a
note that like if you give it to one kid, if you're bringing in Valentine's or anything like that with the younger ones, you have to bring it for the whole class. Like, you know, things like that, which we don't do anyway, because with 5 kids, I don't have time for that stuff. So it just makes it easier.
That's a Valentine.
Yeah. But sure, so, like what you were saying with like what we were doing when we were younger, like, and as older kids in high school and stuff like that, I have already said to Kaylee, like, which first of all, she knows I will get a hold of her if she's going to lie, but I've already had the conversation with her. Like, you know, their kids still drinking at, you know, high school age. It's all still going on. But I just did the approach with her. I was like, listen, you got to tell me what's going on. I'm not going to stand here and be like, don't drink, don't try anything. Like, I want to have that relationship. Talk to me, let me know. Because even going back to, and George, you know, my parents, your aunt and uncle, they were very, very strict. But even at an age where, I don't know, like everybody was driving and we really weren't supposed to drink. Like my mom and my dad were always like, just call me if you're, you know, like, so I want to have those, like the open communication with her. She might only be 15 and a half, but you know, she does go out with her friends now. And I've told her, I want to know, you're not going to be in trouble. Just talk to me. I know it's out there. And I really want to know for your safety. I need to know if you come home and you did drink. I need to know if I have to check on you, you know, that you're not going to be choking on vomit in your sleep. Like, I'm trying to make it more of, you know, like if you scare them, they're not going to talk to you, you know, they're not going to tell you anything. So I don't know. Some people might think that I'm wrong for doing that. Like I'm not telling her at 15 and a half to go out and drink. I always know where she is. I always know
No,
what
Laurie,
she's
I
doing.
think that sounds
You know?
right.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
sounds
what
like
we
you're
do.
building trust with her. And if you have trust, then she is going to tell you those moments, you know, and I think you
Yeah, I mean,
potentially,
I
like, you're
worry.
also like using technology. I can imagine, I mean, you can't get a hold of your kids. You can't, you know, maybe not tracking them and see, like, that's like, yeah, it's, you gotta have some discipline, I guess, like looking at that. I don't know yet, but I even like sending my kid to school, I'm like, oh, when is that moment where I like, what if I need to tell them something? Like, we now live in an age where we can constantly communicate with people. There is no like waiting to get home from school or waiting. It's like, oh, I need something. It's like, I'll just text him, or I mean, he's not that old yet, but I can imagine that they get there pretty quickly, much quicker than they may be ready for. And I think that, you know, you guys are in places where you do need to figure out how to build that trust with your kids and this device, because they're connected to a whole world that you don't even have access to. It's really, really like overwhelming to think about how to do that, how to navigate that with them.
Yeah. I mean, the boys are a little bit like, so my little ones don't have anything. My daughter obviously has a phone, and then my 13-year-old does, but I don't notice him as much being, you know, he's the video games. Everything with him is, you know, the boys are the video games. I think, you know,
Until
with the girls.
and then it changes.
Say that again.
I said until they discover girls, and then that changes.
Yes.
What age, Gail, does that happen?
Like last week, I don't know what happened. I freaked out, and this will circle back to babies and your free time, and like, when is it time for me and my husband? You guys, like, it doesn't sound like you guys are anywhere near this phase, but now that we have 2 kids in high school, like, all of a sudden, like, my husband and I can do things freely. You know, you just don't have to think about them. You make sure they have a ride here and there. And it's lovely. We like each other again. You feel like a normal person. And there's like, you know, they go to college in 4 years. I'm 47. Like, there's a part of me that's like horrified, but there's a part of me that's like, I'm going to Italy and I don't have to worry about who's staying with my kids. Or is there going to be
You're going to be an
house
empty
when I go?
nest and not that far away. I mean,
No,
isn't
I
that a crazy thought?
You know what is crazy about that is I've got my cat sitting here on my counter and my 100-pound daughter, my dog. They're probably both going to die in about 4 years. The kids are going to be gone. It's going to be horrible. I'm going to turn one of the kids' rooms into like the, you know, kitten foster room, but still travel. So yeah, it's going to be scary, but there's also like that next phase. It's like part 2, which you just have to get through the next 4, because it changes quickly. Oh, it was last Saturday night, and they're going to kill me if they're upstairs and they hear this, which is a whole other thing. But all of a sudden they're like, where's the shaving cream? And they're both shaving their faces and going out on dates. And I was like, what the fuck? What is happening? How did this happen to us? Because it literally, like, George, you were there for like the first night of it where they actually had like girls over.
Yeah.
And we're all hanging out, and then it like spiraled. So they're not drinking yet. I haven't moved the beer from the beer fridge. Like, I don't think we're there yet, but it's coming. Like, I know it's gonna be fast.
How old are they again?
Well, they're gonna be 14. They're 9th graders.
Yeah, just don't have them hang out any solo male figures who have no parents who live in a one-bedroom apartment and that yeah, just don't let them hang out with that person who is smart, who can talk to you really easily and will take all of your liquor and ply your children with all the drugs and alcohol as they can. That was me. I was a bad kid.
Well, and then like building on what Laurie said too, like I say the same thing. I'm not like, yeah, go drink, but I'm like, it's gonna happen. You're gonna be somewhere. Like you have to figure out how to drink responsibly, not getting in the car with people, and then being
Yeah.
responsible in this house. Like when you guys start doing that stuff, like don't do it here. You're welcome to have your friends over now, but when that changes, take that elsewhere. Like I don't want to get in trouble for that. So it's like more being smart, I think, today than like just don't drink and do drugs, you know?
I also feel like the parents are all more, I feel like everyone's on the same level. Like back in, like, again, I keep saying, like, I don't ever remember meeting too many of my friends' parents. Like
No.
we never, like, we were always out in like an industrial park or in a baseball field, or like there was no, like parents didn't even exist. And like no one wanted to talk to their parents, and, you know, parents are at work or like, I don't know. But I feel like now everyone, like I would be surprised if there's parents that just said, hey, fuck it, go smoke angel dust on the handball court like right now, and like I don't care, do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Figure it
there's
out.
some. There's still some. You got to be careful of those.
Yeah, I guess. Well, guys, I think we've been chit-chatting for about an hour. If we want to, Gail, we'll just go around the horn and just say, Pete, you know, he's coming, you know, he's got a lot to learn, him and Vanessa, but what would be your final words of wisdom for a first-time parent?
I mean, basically, you do what's good for you. This is your time. You don't, you know, you seek out advice where you want to seek it out from, but you do what's comfortable for you. Don't do what you don't want to do. And especially like in COVID times, like, dude, you're just calling sick to a bunch of stuff. Like it could just be real questionable. You don't want to go to something, I don't know, the baby's under the weather. Like use that. We never use that excuse ever.
Right.
Or just be bold and straight up say, no, it's not good for us. Like we're just going to stay home with the baby today. So that would be my best advice.
Yeah, the baby's under the weather is like, you're not going to get any pushback nowadays.
Exactly. We're not sure.
Laurie, final thoughts for the happy young couple with the young lady at home now.
No, I'm so excited for them. You know, I miss that. I would tell them just, you know, just go with the flow. Like same thing. Don't worry about what everybody's telling you to do. Definitely get the baby. That's going to be my only thing. Get that baby on a schedule. Don't let the baby sleep all day. But you know what, other than that, just enjoy it, you know, go with the flow, and it goes fast, you know. Congratulations to them.
Wow, I know. Congrats. And Marianne, what would you say to the couple now at this point?
I mean, just help each other sleep as much as possible in the first 6 weeks. And then if you can get through that, you're good. You can handle anything.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, it comes natural. And, you know, the thing is with the first baby that you have on your side versus the second and all the others is that you've been planning it for like a year. So you're ready. Whereas there's really no game plan when you have multiple kids going. There's really no script. But I just want to say thank you, ladies, for coming on. We'd love to have you guys back. If you want to come back and talk about something specific. And Uncle Roger, would you like to just take us home with some final thoughts?
You talking to me?
Yeah,
Because
Uncle Roger.
you zapped out for 2 seconds. Oh,
Fuck,
yes.
I'm zapping again.
Well, you know,
Uncle Roger.
Uncle Roger.
I already gave that baby about 18,000 stuffed animals. I got her some weird ones too. Slow loris, if anybody knows what that is, it's the only one of 4 mammals that has venom in its bite. Anyway, I just want to say thank you for a wonderful episode. You guys were all fantastic. Thank you, Marianne, for coming in Pete's stead as our co-host. Laurie and Gail, you guys certainly were, you know, there was no dead spots. We just kept on rolling, and it was fantastic information all the way through. And I appreciate your time. I really do. You want me to bring it out, George?
Sure.
Well, I want to thank everybody for listening to this edition of $5 Buzz. If you have any questions, comments, have any ideas or guests for the future, please email us at $5Buzz, and that's FIVEDOLLARBUZZ at gmail.com. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. That is after we get done hanging out with the mothers, and we don't mean Frank Zappa. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.